It's not as easy as you think to live in Ireland. It was only €267,000 to buy a house in Dublin 9 years ago. It's now over €450,000, which is a 70% increase in less than 10 years. This is not a strange case. In the US, rents have almost doubled in the last 10 years, and home prices have almost tripled since 2000. In Dublin, you can't be sure of a home, even if you make more than the average wage. To buy a normal house, you would have to make more than 3.5 times the average wage, or €128,000. And it costs almost twice as much as most people earn to live comfortably in the city. People are doing crazy things, and a lot of them are being forced to live on the streets. In August 2024, 10,500 people in Dublin were living on the streets. This is one of the highest rates in Europe, and it's up 13% from the last year. Over 50,000 people have had to stay in emergency housing in the capital in the last 10 years, where they often had to live in small, dirty spaces. But this isn't Ireland's only problem. They also have a housing crisis and a migrant crisis. In the 12 months before April 2024, 150,000 people came into the country, which was the highest number in 17 years. This was the third year in a row that over 100,000 immigrants came to Ireland, which is about 80% of the population growth. As Ireland's population grows at a rate of almost 4 people for every new home built, this doesn't solve any of the problems that are already there. In fact, it makes things worse, causing real trouble because the government is going to great lengths to house refugees. In 2024, it was reported that 280 asylum seekers would be moving into this village of 165 people. This would double the population overnight, which made people in the village very angry. In 2023, a poll of 18 to 24-year-old Irish people found that 70% of them want to leave the country to find a better life somewhere else. This view of modern Ireland is very different from the story of the Celtic tiger, which is often told in the media as an economic wonder. How did it take place? Just 30 years ago, many people didn't have enough money to heat their homes. Living conditions are bad, and there was a famous potato famine in the 1800s and 1900s. As a result, many people have tried to leave Ireland whenever they have the chance. In fact, there are still a lot fewer people living there now than there were at their peak 160 years ago. A huge number of Irish people live outside of Ireland, mostly in the United States. A shocking 36 million Americans, or 11%, say they are Irish as their main race. Notable people like JFK and Joe Biden have Irish roots. In the 1960s, Ireland's population was the lowest it had been in 300 years. At the same time, the populations of all other European countries were slowly rising as they got richer. But at the beginning of the 1990s, a very important choice changed everything. Ireland cut its business tax rates to just 12.5% at the beginning of this decade, making it one of the lowest in Europe. Everything changed. Ireland all of a sudden moved into a new era, which became known as the Celtic Tiger time. All of a sudden, businesses from around the world could sell their goods in the EU, which is one of the biggest markets in the world. They also pay much less in taxes than they would at home. Big companies flocked to Ireland over the next 10 years because this chance was too good to pass up. There are shops for Google, Apple, and Microsoft. Ireland's economy grew very quickly after it became the biggest tax haven in the world. But there was something wrong. These businesses made thousands of new jobs for skilled workers that Ireland's small population couldn't fill yet. Someone from another country had to help them if they wanted to ride this wave of growth. They used immigration to build over the next 20 years. A full marketing effort, Come Home to Ireland, and A Land of Opportunity were all used to get people to come. Starting in the mid-1990s, Ireland's population started to grow very quickly as a huge number of skilled people came to fill open jobs. This is very different from other waves of immigration that we've talked about on the show. In the early 2000s, it was already richer per person than the UK. In 2005, The Economist's Quality of Life Index ranked it as the best place to live. The people were glad to see the newcomers. Their goal was to let everyone know about their success and also to welcome back people who had left in the past. Ireland is now one of the world's richest countries per person, and it was easy to see what was making this happen. In 2017, Apple made up 20% of Ireland's income and was one of the top 50 Irish companies. Half of those companies were American. But there was something wrong. On the surface, Ireland's economy was doing very well, but something was slowly getting worse. There were not enough homes. Ireland couldn't build enough homes to meet their growing demand, even though their economy was doing very well. How could this happen, though? There was a choice Ireland made in the 1980s that led to the present crisis. It took back control of its housing market. At the time, Ireland's economy was having a hard time, as we saw, and this was seen as a way to bring in money and help it grow. Yes, this did happen, but now businesses were not required to build social housing that was cheap for everyone. Instead, they moved to the private market and rental houses, which were more profitable and were given money to help them do this. Even though this was a problem, it didn't seem too hard to handle when business was good. But then there was the financial collapse of 2008. All of a sudden, the huge desire for homes dropped sharply. There were a lot of skilled workers who left the country, and building stopped. What a mess. The real trouble started when Ireland's economy started to grow again. More people moved to the country when the economy grew. But because of the economic boom, there weren't enough skilled workers to build enough homes, and the supply hasn't been able to keep up. Ireland didn't have enough homes, and the ones that were there were even harder to buy because banking standards were tightened and savings requirements were raised. It's even worse in Ireland because its tech industry is growing so quickly. Apple and Google paid their employees much more than the average wage, which increased the need for housing and made rents go even higher. The perfect storm has been made. People in the area are having a hard time just getting by, especially those who don't work in the tech industry. It's thought that a lot of people, especially young Irish people, might be better off living somewhere else. Ireland's housing problem has been getting worse, but strangely, people are still coming to Ireland in large numbers. From 2008 to now, the number of people coming to Ireland from other countries has gone up after a drop. There has been even more of this in the last 3 years. Over 100,000 people have come to Ireland every year for the past 3 years. That's about 6% of a country with only 5.5 million people, to give you an idea. Irish people are worried about a lack of integration, which is related to the fact that this is putting more pressure on a housing stock that is already limited. In Ireland, people's views on immigration have changed a lot in just the last 5 years. Ireland has had one of the highest approval scores in Europe for decades when it comes to letting people move there. But as the cost of living and living standards have gone down, so has public opinion. Ireland took in more than 100,000 refugees in 2022. Immigration didn't bother only 4% of people that year, but after a year, that number had gone up to 29%, making it the most important problem for voters, ahead of housing and health care. A lot of angry people have taken to the streets to talk about the present crisis, but there is a bad side to this too. Since 2018, there have been 28 fires across the country in homes that were thought to be housing refugees. Since the beginning of 2023, there have been 9 confirmed arson attacks in Dublin alone. There were also riots. In Ireland, these don't happen very often. What did happen? We already told you that Ireland is a small country. Because so many people are coming, the government has had to come up with new ways to house them. They started a rapid build housing program to give families leaving Ukraine a place to stay for a short time. The program used modular homes, army bases, and even tents to house 2,000 Ukrainians in several cities in Ireland. At the moment, almost a third of all hotel rooms in Ireland are being used to house refugees or people seeking protection. B&Bs and emergency housing centers are also being used. The number of people living in small Irish towns is also rising. In 2024, plans were made public to bring 280 asylum seekers to a village with only 165 residents. Plans like these take over all of a village's services and facilities, making integration nearly impossible. The problem is especially bad in Dublin, the city. It's clear why people are mad. They have been having a hard time for years without intelligence. But they can see that the government goes to great lengths to help refugees before they do. It looks like that. Plus, Ireland is one of the most expensive places in the EU. In fact, family spending is 46% higher in Ireland than it is in the EU as a whole. Other services, especially hospitals, are also having a hard time. The large number of foreigners makes things even worse for these places, which are already having a hard time keeping up with demand. There aren't enough places to stay in Dublin, so tent cities have sprung up all over the city.